So I'd like to begin by asking a few questions. They're rhetorical, okay? I mean, a lot of times when I'm teaching or even in a sermon, I'll ask a question and I'll wait until I get an answer, but these are just rhetorical questions. The golden calf, what did it look like? How big was it? What were its dimensions? How much gold went into it? We don't know, right? We read last week about the golden calf, and all it says is Aaron said, whoever has gold, bring it, and they brought it, and he made the golden calf. Doesn't tell us how much gold, how big the calf, what it looked like, nothing. And in fact, right, and this always struck me, when Moses comes down and he chews out his brother for making the golden calf, what does Aaron say? Right? The people brought the gold, I threw it in the furnace, and out came this calf, right? So we don't know anything about what it looked like, its dimensions, how much gold, nothing, right? Why do I point this out? Because in the Parashat that we read today, right, detailed descriptions, right? In fact, twice, okay, you wouldn't pick that up because we're on the triennial, right? But the first half of the Parsha is do this, do that, this is the measure, this is the material, da 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 da, right? And then, because how many times VaYakhel, okay? I mean, he made, not they made, or it was VaYakhel, who is the person he made? Bezalel, right? So Bezalel gets the instructions, and we have the instructions. And then we have exactly what Bezalel did. Dimensions, materials, process, description of Bezalel, description of his apprentices, description of the team which constructed the tabernacle. Okay, so why all this detail, even having had to sit there and read it, you might even say overkill, right? About the construction of the tabernacle, nothing about the golden calf, right? Because, remember, I said this in my introduction, the tabernacle is the repair for the sin of the golden calf, right? Repair takes intention, it takes responsibility, right? But destruction takes simply the will to destroy, right? And the golden calf was a destructive act. The creation of the tabernacle of the Mishkan is a repair for that destruction, right? Destroying is easy, right? I mean, right? How decades to build the VOA, right, into the most reliable source of information throughout the world, an aspiration so that people who lived in tyranny could know what freedom is, like decades to build it, right? From 1942, how long to destroy it? Overnight. Overnight, all it takes is the will to destroy, right? And again, and I said this a couple of weeks ago, I mean, we live in Washington, right? Everybody here either has worked for the government or has a spouse who works for the government or friends who work for the government, right? Is there waste? Sure, right? Nobody died. In fact, I was rewatching the talk I gave 6 years ago. And I said in that talk, we live in Washington, we know that the government wastes money, right? But to fix it, you need a scalpel, not a chainsaw, right? And that's the problem, right? Or, it's like killing, going after a fly with a sledgehammer instead of a fly swatter, right? And this destruction, why? Ego-driven demand, right? And again, we read about stupid stuff, right? Like, okay, some things can be fixed, right? But to take down pictures of the bomber which destroyed Hiroshima from the Department of Defense website. Why? Because it was called the Enola Gay, right? So all you put in an order, take out all the word gay, and all of a sudden, look, and we can talk about whether Hiroshima is something to be proud of or not, right? But it's a part of our history, right? It's a part of our history, right? And this destruction is the same malady which caused our ancestors to build the golden calf. It's idolatry. Now, what is idolatry? Okay, what is idolatry? The Kutzker Rebbe gave us a definition of idolatry. Idolatry is when a face reveres a face that is not a face, right? Because how do we encounter God, right? I mean, like, I love that line from Les Miserables, right? To love another person is to see the face of God, right? But if we revere something that's faceless and has no holy purpose, that's idolatry. And interestingly, Pope Francis, in the very first encyclical that he wrote as Pope, he quoted the Kutzker Rebbe about the definition of idolatry. And he says, idolatry does not offer a journey, but rather a plethora of paths leading nowhere, right? And the golden calf is a dead end, just as our contemporary idolatries are. And what is the remedy? The Mishkan. How so? How so? Because the Mishkan has a face, right? In fact, two, right? There's two Kruvim, two cherubs in the Mishkan, and they have a face. And then you could say, but isn't that idolatry? Right? But the target where we're supposed to look is between the faces, the space in between, and that's where we find God's presence, because this architecture of the Mishkan with the church tells us to revere God is to take care of each other. To revere God is to take care of each other, and especially those who are being rejected and cast out, right? Immigrants, members of the LGBT community, right? The poor, right? And that's where we find God. We don't find God in the golden calf, and we don't find God in the golden palaces on Fifth Avenue, right? We find God in the faces of other human beings, and especially those who are rejected and marginalized, right? And that's the task, right? I mean, most of us don't have a lot of impact on policy, all right? Some of us do, but most of us don't, right? And even, every organization that I belong to, right? So I get this email right to your senators and your congressmen, right? And all you have to do is really click the button and fill in your name, and I do it, right? I do it, but is it necessary? Right? Is it not? I mean, who are my senators, right? Who is my congressman, right? I don't really need to convince them to support policies that build rather than destroy, right? They don't need convincing, right? But I send it anyway, right? But the act of building and fixing the idolatry, frankly, first of all, just to live your life, right? Just to live your life and put the phone away and right, and live your life and love, right? Love your spouse if you're blessed with a spouse. Love your children if you're blessed with children. Love your neighbor. Love your dog, right? Live life with love and see the face of God, particularly in those who society has rejected. And right, we're teaching Pir Kehilat, right? And we haven't gotten to it yet, but we'll get it next week, right? Lo alecha hamlacha libur v'lo ata ben chorin lehivatel minena, right? You are not required to complete the task, but you can't opt out of it. You can't opt out of it. The work is always ahead of us. The journey is never ending, but it's not aimless, right? When we respond to the needs of the people around us, we build a world in which God's presence is found in the faces of each other. Shabbat shalom. Continue with Kaddish before Musaf, page 155 or 4.